Welcome to Racing, Pacing, Chasing, Season 2, Episode 22. I'm Aaron Bain, joined by Rocky Butterworth. It's time for the pacing segment. Rocky.
How are you, mate?
We're in Gawler tonight, my home ground.
Beauty.
I've pulled the blue shorts on. I've only had to travel 5 minutes up the road.
Oh, I know. I've had to make the 200k trip this week.
200k's? We're not going to Perry. Seriously.
Well, that's why P. Smith's not doing the footy show. Tanking half of fuel, he said.
You Southerners, seriously. Unbelievable. Barry Curtin on the footy show tonight, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a ripper.
He's a ripper, isn't he? What about Tommy Javor just thinking he can jump into the host seat as well on the footy show? Anyway, right. Got Peter Bain, my father, on the show tonight. I'm going to step aside. I do enough of the talking on our shows week in, week out.
And at home, he says.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, actually, I read the notes. There's a question I'm looking forward to him answering.
Which one's that, mate?
Last question you asked him on the night. Favourite son?
I really am looking forward to that because I reckon that you're going to go home in tears.
There's only one son, isn't there? Do I have a brother?
Yep.
Oh, didn't know that. Yeah, actually, I shouldn't say that. He's one of my biggest owners, Bradley. Every horse I need a 5% share sold in, I just say, Bradley, you're in. Send me the money. Right, we must thank our sponsors, the Gawler Harness Racing Club. Peter on board tonight to talk all things racing in Gawler, and also a bit of his history as well.
Yes.
The Prince Albert Hotel, Gawler, Choice Hotels Group as well, sponsors. But Kapunda Harness Racing Club, Stephen Norman couldn't join us tonight, but we look forward to getting him back on in coming weeks. But none other, you would have noticed the nice little setting you've given us here tonight.
I have, mate.
Air Diffusion Agencies. Tell us about them, Rock.
Air Diffusion Agencies, owned by a good friend of ours, Smythe and I, called Billy Threadgold. He's he's a successful businessman, but B, he is a passionate horse racing man. He's a passionate wine and beer drinker and restaurant, so he fits into the Cheers mould for us. And he saw something. He's got agencies in Welland, Lonsdale, Salisbury, Darwin and Queensland, and he self-made it. It was a business that he started maybe 30 years ago, and it's grown into the biggest componentry business in South Australia by a long, long way for all things air conditioning. So we thank Billy for coming on board, and the rest of his family, of course, are all associated with ADA, and I'm sure if we look after Billy, he'll keep looking after us for a long time.
Program partner too.
Well, he didn't want to just own one of the shows. He said, I'll come in, but I want to be your major partner for everything. And we've come to an agreement for that, and we're welcome to have him as the principal of all our shows.
Thanks, Billy, and it's good to have you on board. Now, right, last week, let's get straight into it. We spoke a bit passionately about our own situations and thoughts and views, but a couple of topics that we just want to cover off again this week. National rating system continues to get a bit more noise, and probably can't say a little, but too much. But look at the border listing. And that's all I'll say, and in the coming weeks we can probably talk a little bit more, but they've watched our show from 2 weeks ago with the panel. They watched the show last week as well, and I say the board, the steward, like that, the Harness Racing SA, and they want to get a group together.
Yeah, and that's great to talk about it, and I think it will happen sooner than later. The only concern I have with changing it can't happen straight away, mate, because there's too many people like Anthony Robinson, Darren Billinger, a few others now starting to buy horses that are a bit more expensive. We've got 4 or 5 in our barn. It won't be fair on those people who have bought good horses to the state to all of a sudden have the rating system changed straight away. I think there needs to be a time frame that it's eased in over the course of the journey, so that ones who think they're disadvantaged can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it gives the ones who have purchased horses the opportunity to get their return on investment, and away we go again.
Those 3 I bought for you today, I better get them over quickly.
You better get them here, mate.
Port Pirie Future, now we spoke about it last week, and thanks to Greg Sims, president of the Port Pirie Harness Racing Club, he actually answered the call and accepted the invite to come on the show. He was hoping to get down tonight, but they had a meeting with HRSA when we went to recording on Wednesday night via Zoom, I believe, that he couldn't get away from Pirie with his committee, but he's going to come down next week.
Fantastic.
So Greg's going to join us in Adelaide. He's basically, I said, you realise we're in Adelaide and you've got to drive a couple of hours. He said he'll do what he has to do to come down. He loves our show. Greg, we thank you for watching, one of our many viewers, but we thank you for watching, and he wants to come down and just air the position of the Port Pirie Harness Racing Club.
Fantastic. Look forward to that.
We've been a little bit controversial over the last couple of weeks. People are listening, people are watching, and people are wanting to get amongst it. The South Australian Harness Racing Club did turn the offer down to come on show. sort of expected, but we appreciate their position.
Yep.
Thanks to Angela Nolan. We hopefully, she did say in due course she might come on. So
yeah, that'd be good.
We'll stay. But we do want to bring you the latest guests, news and controversy as well, Rock. So talk a bit about this one. Proceedings issued Monday by South Australian Harness Racing Club.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure of that.
Yeah.
That on Monday...
What's the 1% doubt? You haven't seen it,
there's always a bit of doubt. I haven't seen it, but I am 99% sure that proceedings were issued by Harness Racing Club against HRSA on Monday morning over the $300,000+ that they insist that they are owed by HRSA. So things still are a long way from settlement. Things are still a long way from being all on the same page and moving ahead, but we can only report on what we hear, mate.
It was funny, 3 or 4 weeks ago when the Cunningham report came out, Ryan texted me and he said, thoughts? It'll only start a war. And here's the war.
Yeah.
I'm worried about it, Rock.
Look, harness racing won't die, and I've been hearing it from blokes every week. We've got a week to go, we've got 2 weeks to go, we've got 2 months to go before they switch the lights off at Globe Derby and you all drive home and find something else to do with
We'll come and race
horses.
on picnic meetings on Sundays.
There is no way that it'll... there is no way that harness racing will disappear off the face of the earth in South Australia. It will survive somehow, and the current board has got that opportunity to either make it bigger than it's ever been or find its niche and say this is what we're going to do.
Anyway, this is a next topic very close to Wayne Hill's heart.
Yes.
The borders. Now, recent hours, days, the borders are shut now to Victoria, which closes probably any hope for that Riverland, Riverina area, Mildura. We don't like speaking of, we do, we love it.
Yeah.
Get us across there sooner rather than later. There was some talk that maybe they'd open up those postcodes July 20. Doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Well, I've just read a report before we come on that the restrictions are back in for another 6 weeks.
Yep.
I still think that there's a chance that Mildura will be included. Well, we will be included in Mildura's opportunity.
Do you think to get through to New South Wales?
No, I believe...
Stephen Marshall's not sitting there with his delegates going, we need to open the border to Mildura to allow South Australian harness racing people to get across the border.
I think this is purely based on cases in South Australia, which are minimal to none, and the cases out of Mildura down to Oyen, which are minimal to none. So it makes sense from a harness race, and it's their decision to go to the government and say, can we open that border for harness racing?
For that, I'll pose that. For that to happen, does regionalisation got to go back in place? And HRV ain't going to do that too quickly because...
They've done it.
When's that been announced?
It's in now. It's back for 6 weeks.
HRV?
Yeah.
So you've been reading your note?
They ring me, mate. You know that.
This is great.
So regionalisation is back.
As of when, sorry? And this is...
Ongoing. So when they said that we're back at Melbourne...
I did notice. I read when in the programming when I was looking through today, they had the meetings frozen up until only for a week. So will Melton go ahead Saturday night, as is?
I'm not sure of the date, but I do know that as of maybe a couple of hours ago, that regionalisation is back in. They've changed it marginally, some of the areas, but Mildura still stands alone. So
the drivers, say Alex, driver's committed to drive on Friday. Does he drive at Mildura?
That I don't know.
Sorry, we would have gone. Yeah. Anyway, we mustn't dwell on it. I'm just we're having a chat now like we do, but that's certainly a very interesting topic. Let's go to a short break, Rock, because we've got interview with yourself and Peter Bain. I'm going to go for a little schooner or two with Sean Noack from the from the Greyhound Club as you interview Peter Bain, President of the Gawler Harness Racing Club.
Welcome back to Racing, Pacing, Chasing. I'm joined by Peter Bain, the President of Gawler Harness Racing Club. Brought to us by Alberta Station today. We're on the base of the Flinders Ranges. If you need any accommodation for your holidays, take the family out. It's a great place to get some quiet and serenity of the Flinders Ranges. But welcome, Pete, to Racing, Pacing, Chasing.
Thanks, Rocky. Thanks for having us on.
Mate, I thought it was time to get you on. We've got plenty to talk about. There's plenty going on, and you keep your nose to the ground fairly well. You had a Country Cups meeting just recently where all the delegates of the clubs come together. Usually at Globe Derby you have those, I think. Any news to come out of there that's of interest to harness racing followers?
Yeah, we met a couple of weeks ago, and again it was everyone seems to be on the same page. The trouble is, we've been going to these meetings. Well, I have probably 15 to 20 odd years, and much the same gets brought up all the time. But the ones that were there, again, just shows their resilience and passion for the sport. I do feel for some of those clubs, given their location and where they are, and it's easy for us to speak because we're just 20 minutes up the road from Globe Derby. But it was a good discussion. We were met by George Fiarchi and Ross Neal, who addressed.
So is that normal though that they come to country clubs, or not really?
Not as a rule. Previous chairman Gary Crocker used to attend because the structure was a little bit different. Then he was the country club's rep to the board, so he used to attend. But in this time, I think it was felt that it was time that we had a bit of an update with and those that hadn't met George, to give us a brief overview of where we are at the moment. And then, of course, he was accompanied by Ross Neal. So that part of the meeting was very, very informative. I'd already heard a little bit, or Where's the Club had heard that 2 weeks before. We'd already met George and Ross, and that was premeditated anyway. But to hear it again, and then there was a bit more added to it, and to engage with other country clubs, it was good. So, it was very, very enlightening.
Okay. Has there been a lot of times over the years, though, mate, where you jump in your car home and travel in knowing full well that it's going to be another few hours of same old, and I'll drive home with nothing solved? Has that been the case for a long time?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And at the conclusion of that meeting, or just prior to, I actually asked through the chair, through Mario Borg, what are we really doing here?
Yeah.
You know, I've been going to those meetings, as I said, for 15 to 20 years, and it just goes around and around and around. And, you know, I think that, and I asked the question, and it was put to those present, that we would sort of go into a recess until such time there was something concrete that we can work off of, because we just keep bringing up the same old thing and nothing's changed. We all know there's issues surrounding the South Australian Harness Racing Club, and that is a big burden on the industry. We're not going to add any further commentary on that, but the country clubs as a group are very frustrated with that, and they have been for some time, and that's been sent back to the board to say, look, we've had enough as a group, and we just want to move on and make our game great again. You know?
Can I touch on, I mean, you've been a Gawler resident for all of your life, and you've been in harness racing from probably majority of those years as well, and you were involved when the government decided they were going to build the North Eastern Expressway and took over that beautiful old track over the road and gave you this land here. There's so many stories out there where you undersold, the track should never have been built here, why wasn't it inside Gawler, thoroughbred track, and most of the comments I hear aren't positive, but I know you well enough to know that if you were involved, that the best deal was struck for the club. But is there anything that you can add to there of the process that happened during that? Or
well, I think what people really need to understand is that it was a compulsory acquisition. And I'm not too sure if anyone's ever read the Compulsory Acquisition Act, but the government or the people there can just give you what they see fit. You know, so we know that facility was always going to cost us probably $7.5 to $10 million to replicate what we got, and that was put to through the process of when that went up. The initial offer came back to our club of $2 million, and that was what the government offered us. Well, that was just criminal. And look, it was a very, very testing time for us as a community. Me personally, those that know me, I'm a deep thinker and very passionate about my club, and when you're being ripped off, which we were. But look, there are things that happened in the past, and we can't change that. We went back to the table and renegotiated and got it up to $3 million, I think it was. You made mention before that we were given the land. Well, we didn't actually were given the land. We actually bought the land. So then we negotiated, well, if we have to buy it, we wanted to do a land swap, and that didn't come into play. So we ended up with $3.8 million was what we got for a place. It was going to cost us $7.5 to $10 million to replicate. By the time we invested that money, and interest rates at that particular time were probably around that 9%, and we probably had in the bank at one particular time 4.2 mil, and everything you see at our club today, tomorrow, whenever anyone comes there, we've built that out of our club funds, and we've funded the lot. To say we were ripped off, yes. Could have we done anything about it? Had I known personally then what I know now, absolutely. But we were led down a nice garden path, and everything was going to be hunky-dory, and we were going to move from point A to point B. But there was nothing but roadblocks on the way through. And look, at the particular time, our governing body were actually asked, could harness racing in South Australia survive without the Gawler Harness Racing Club? And it was asked of 2 people, and the answer was yes. Now, we've seen what's happened to other country clubs, you know, like your Cadinas, probably moving to the Wyalas now, your Port Augustas. You know, once they start to go on your York Peninsula, Franklin Harbours, once they went, the industry then just gets suffocated, and that's the problem we're facing now. So it's not unique to us, because that was what was told to the government, and that is people will say no, that wasn't right. I know it's a fact. That's what happened. So.
And the extension of that, Pete, is it is what it is. You got your 3.8 million, and you've got a terrific facility just over the road from where we are now. And to me, it's everything's positive, and let's just keep going.
Look, have I got an extra grind? Yes, I have. But am I going to bring it out? No, I'm not, because that's things in the past. We have to move on. We were dealt some pretty ordinary cards, and as a community and as a club, we've picked it up and moved on, and we just work with what we've got, and work with our governing body, and do the best we possibly can given the restraints that were forced upon us.
And talking about situations, the Port Pirie situation, what's your take on there and how that will play out for Port Pirie at the moment?
Oh, look, I really sympathise with, as I said earlier, with all those clubs, but Port Pirie, there's certainly a place for Port Pirie. You know, like we traditionally was the Friday night, so I was probably as shocked as anyone when I saw the Tuesday nights being allocated to Port Pirie. I have heard a little reason as to why, but I'm not too sure that's quite right. But yeah, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense, you know, like, and it's not just about us, but for example, Aaron couldn't get away on a Tuesday from his work, and I get up at 3:30 on a Tuesday morning and head off to the livestock markets and get home mid-afternoon. Well, sure as eggs, I ain't going to get in the car and drive 2 hours up there and then get home at midnight and expect to be up for work next day. Now, that's not against the Port Pirie club, but if it was a Friday night, it's a little bit different story, you know, so that has to really be looked at, you know. It just makes it really tough for them, and I really sympathise with that club in particular.
It's going to face some tough times. I know there's probably had some in the past, but I reckon this is going to be the toughest test for that.
I was speaking to a committee person only yesterday at the markets, and I do know that they're actually having discussions with the chairman and HRSA in relation to that, so there may be more to come out of that, and let's hope so that common sense prevails here.
We hope to get their president on the show next week as well, just to get his thoughts on it as well. I want to try and get the people get to know Peter Bain, the bloke, a little bit more as well while you're here. So we have had 3 programs in a row where we've discussed everything that's going on between HRSA, the racing club, participants, national rating. So I could ask you all those questions as well, mate, but I just want to ask you a few questions and see what sort of response I get from them. But most people in the industry know you. They know Peter Bain, the bloke, or they've heard of you, right? And many of those people have way different opinions of Peter Bain. Now, the bloke I met 2 years ago and got to know is, for me, a hard-working, passionate harness racing man. He's a dad, and he's a person who will give you the time of day as long as you don't treat him like a fool, and as long as you don't bring your personal agendas with an axe to grind against anybody that he's involved with. Is that close to the mark for...
Yeah, I guess it goes back to how you were brought up.
Yep.
You know, my father's a beekeeper, and he works with Mother Nature and in the rural sector, and he's met a lot of people from all over Australia, and Dad had his 80th only early this year, and
I was glad that wasn't at the homestead, and I didn't get a Guernsey to that, because I'm petrified of bees for a start, and I think there's a few hanging around the homestead, isn't there?
Yeah, but the way people spoke of Dad at that, or the guest speakers that spoke of Dad at that, and that's just how we've been brought up.
Yeah. Well, I know Aaron thinks the world of him as well. So.
Yeah, so, and I like to be, and with sport and footy, I call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
We don't always agree.
That's right.
We don't always agree, and I respect your opinions as much as anyone else's, and that's anyone who comes across. But let's have a discussion about it, and we're all entitled to our opinions. But it's when people have their own agendas and are just doing what they do for the wrong reasons, which gets right up my nose. And as I said to you before, I asked the country clubs people at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, what are we really here for? We're here because we're passionate about what we do. Yeah. And if you're haven't got that heart and soul into it, well, do something else.
I think the extension of you, from what I know, is that you're a reader, and if you're given a document to read, you read that document from start to finish, and then try and work out where the advantages are and why was this written and what are the negatives of it. Whereas a lot of people, harness racing people in general, will read the first 3 lines and start making an opinion, and the more they read, the more they get angry because it's not suiting their agenda and throw it away. But you seem to be a bloke that will read it and then read it again to make sure that
I was a terrible reader at school. I couldn't read. And I get the paper today, and I'll turn to the back page, read the sport, read the headlines, go to the bottom line, and then make up. If I want to read more of it, I'll go the parts in between times. But a lot of those documents, and through harness racing, which is a real passion, I've been privy to some documents in recent times and a long time ago, that there's so much to read, but I like to digest it, and there's many times you'd like to respond to them, and often I'll take them to bed and I'll read part of it, put it back in my drawer, get the next part out tomorrow night, go to the back end and read, and then go over things again, just to digest what's in there, and then make up my own opinions of what it's about. Like I was not real good at school. I didn't like school, but I have. I'm a deep thinker, and even when I was coaching footy and playing footy, always played in the back lines, and I always felt then that I read the play. And I like to think that some of those skills are in general life, that I read what's going on and then sum up the good, the bad, and then go from there. Yeah. And again, it's not always right. We all make mistakes. Well,
that's right.
But I like to have my own views on a lot of things.
The other part of that, mate, we've got to wind up really quickly. The family's always had good horses. You've always bred good horses at Hilltop. You've always had a good horse under your care. Now you've got some good ones coming through, which I know about, that you're really looking forward to as 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. Now you're firmly entrenched with Aaron at Bain Racing, and your horses are trained out of there. How is that association working with Aaron, being, you're an employee virtually, 60 grand a year, he says, in a car and fuel. You're now the 2IC. You've handed over to Aaron to run the show, but you're there pretty much every day having a look around. And how do you see that going now?
Oh, okay. But early on, it was a bit hard because Aaron was. Jake was there at the time, and like young fellas, and I was probably the same with my folks. They have different ideas to the way we want to do it, and like there's a bit of a compromise now. There's a lot of things we're doing now that we once used to do, and there's things that I'm doing now to keep up with what the others are doing. So you've really got to keep turning that wheel to keep up with it. But look, we have a good working relationship, and I've found it now. We've got some really good staff there, and you're only as good as the staff around you, and the trust and faith you can put in those people, and then the feedback that they give you, and we can ask. And Teresa Nelson, wonderful worker, and there's a lot of things I bounce off her when Aaron's gone to work that then we relay that back to Aaron. So it's a good working relationship, and it's a real team effort. So
that's good.
Again, when I played footy and tennis, but more so footy, success comes from working in a team, and I don't think that's no different to where we are with harness racing now. I think all the the clubs and everyone has to get on that same page and work as a team for this whole thing to be successful.
Yeah. I want to finish, mate, with 5 really, really quick questions.
Well, this will be interesting.
That are about 1 or 2 word answers.
Okay.
Best hilltop horse?
Oh. The best one? They're all good to me. They've all been good. Hilltop Raider was... Yeah, he was good.
You got one you're thinking about, haven't you?
Yeah.
And she was pretty special.
Some things you never get over.
Yeah, no, that's right. Crows or power, mate? This one will actually probably make you burst into tears.
What's that? Oh, crows?
Yeah.
Oh, who do I vote for? Crows. Yeah. And then look, on your footy show earlier. Really. Frustrating, but I've been through that with local footy, and you do know there's light at the end of the tunnel. It may be a long way away, but you come out better the other end.
Yeah. Grass track racing?
For harness?
Yep.
It's got its place.
Right. Night racing at Gawler Harness?
Got its place, but there's a lot of work to be done.
Favourite son?
Bradley.
By how far? Flemington Straight?
Long way. No, they're both good boys.
Lucky you threw that in. Thanks for joining us, mate. It's been fascinating. You're one of the blokes that I can sit with, just like Aaron, for hours at a time and talk races, footy, life in general. So appreciate your time, and we'll be back after the break.
Yep, thanks, Rocky. Thanks for having us.
Back now from the interview, and he did answer it.
He did. And I've got to tell you, I was 99% sure that my info was right about Globe Derby lodging proceedings. I'm 100% sure that there is a favourite in the household, and it's not you, mate.
Time for Leroy the Lizard.
No, he's not playing this week.
Leroy's out too.
I've sacked him. I rang him during the week and I said, mate, 2 winners he's given us, so I've imposed a 4-week ban on him. He's gone.
Travel restrictions.
No, I don't care what it is. He is so far out of form that we can't afford to lose viewers based on Leroy's
I was actually pleased.
ridiculously poor tips.
Poor tips? It shouldn't have got beat.
He found a way to get Grey Maverick beat.
I know, unbelievable. Brody actually watched the show when it went up on air last week, and he texted me. You didn't have to tip it as Leroy's tip, did you? So Leroy, you're out.
He's out.
Have we got someone to replace him?
No, we're just going to go without.
Right.
Mate, you could pick Eddie the Eagle. He'd do a better job than Leroy the Lizard, mate.
Righto. This Saturday night, what do you got, Rock?
Well, I really like race 3 on the program, mate. I think it's as close to as good a field as we'll see in SA for a while. We got Tonetail Williams drawn 1. It'll take a sit, but I think Lisa can choose who she hands up to. The Sparrow Hawk will certainly go forward. I think there'll be heat outside from Grey Maverick. I don't think it's a horse you can take back in the field. So I really believe that the race, even though there's 2 standouts in Grey Maverick and the Sparrow Hawk, you wouldn't be surprised if either of them got beaten. I know the Sparrow Hawk will want the front. Almost every horse that Louis Trotter trains has to find the front. But Danny will come out on Grey Maverick as well. Don't tell William, who's been letting us down a bit. I just don't think
hasn't come back the way it did last spring.
It's just lost that really explosive 100 metres that it had last time in. It's only one run away. It's
only one run away from producing it.
Yeah, but it's just not settling as well as Toby and Lisa would want, I think, from what I watch of it. And as we said, it's one of our favourite horses, but probably not where it should be right now. I thought this was going to be a great campaign for the horse. But having said that, with the speed on the right run, it's going to be a live chance.
We're still happy to talk to Toby about buying it for the Sydney or Queensland if you want to talk.
Yes, we are. Tobe, listen up. Then we've got Elmer's Hoofing It. I don't know where it sits in, whether it can get to this class, but I liked its form in New South Wales.
Easy winner first up.
And did
good stable.
Yeah, good stable that finds them. Sparrow Hawk if it leads, it's going to be very hard to beat. The trainer thinks he can give West Sam a 20-metre head start and beat it. Well, I'm happy to go with the trainer.
Was that with himself on?
I don't know who was going to drive, but it doesn't matter. If he has the confidence to say he can beat West Sam given a 20-metre head start, he will win this race on Saturday night.
Looking forward to it, Rob.
Be a good race.
Good fields all round on Saturday night.
I think that horse is going really, really well.
So you've tipped the Sparrowhawk.
Yep.
There was a war of words on Facebook between you two, Louis and yourself.
No, that's not true. I just
and you're sitting in his corner this week.
I just made a comment that it looked like it was a personal thing, and he assures me that it wasn't. So you take that, but he does obviously think that
wasn't a bad trial on Monday, actually.
Yeah. It'll be too good. The rest of it is he said, she said, and a few people joined in, but it doesn't matter. Everyone is entitled to their opinion on it. More importantly, it's in at 5:55 in race 1 Saturday night, West Sam,
yep.
And I think with Wayne on, it's got no chance of going down.
Driver change.
When that happened?
Before we come on air.
Did it?
Yeah.
Who's driving?
Mark Billinger.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yeah. He's won on it before.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're jumping on, but...
I spoke to the owners. I said, any chance? They said no.
Straight out?
Yeah.
Didn't even finish the sentence, did you?
They said any chance. They didn't even let me say me. Had a couple of drives at the trials of late. I've been telling Paul Cav and Lisa that I'm making a comeback.
Yeah. No, I saw Lisa at the footy on Sunday, mate, and she said if he comes back... The game's the game is, all that she would have said.
She would have been very polite to say
no,
that.
she
anyway.
was. Yeah. I asked her why she isn't driving in races because Paul Cav insists that she's a better driver than him and more aggressive, and she said that's probably true, but she's probably a bit too aggressive. So.
Tell you what, I'd love to have their barn at the moment.
They go all right, don't they?
Back. It was probably never the run first up.
Yep.
But they got some stars there, don't they?
Yep. Yeah. I'll go and flog one Monday. Yeah. They're always going out to dinner, the Cavaliers.
They won't know there's one gone. They've got that many of them. Anyway, Rock, it's been a pleasure. As always.
Yep.
It's only a short drive home for me. I hope you get home before midnight.
Well, I might do what you do, mate. Just stop in at McDonald's and grab 6 or 7 burgers and a thick shake and then ring you.
That's how you want to think. Anyway, Rock, we must go. Thanks to our sponsors. Good interview tonight. All 3 shows we had good special guest, Kerry McInulty on the racing segment, if you haven't seen as well. Sean Nowak on the chasing segment. So we had some very good guests tonight. Action-packed shows. We'll see you this time next week. Thanks, viewers.